Well, this morning is, in the liturgical year, is considered the second Sunday of Easter. Actually, from the end of Lent through Pentecost, those 50 days are called the season of Easter. And during the season of Easter, we focus on the resurrection. You know, the fact that we are resurrection people, that we are Easter people, those who live our lives in such a way that is motivated because of Christ's resurrection from the dead. The fact that we have hope because the grave was empty. This morning's scripture reading is found in Acts chapter 2. And you may recall that Acts chapter 2 is actually the story about Pentecost. And in that story, in Acts chapter 2, verse 14, it begins, "Then Peter stood up with the 11, raised his voice, and addressed the crowd." Now, you'll recall that Judas has already died at this point, and they have restored, or they've made another disciple to take his place, Matthias. And so it's the 11 disciples that include Matthias that are with Peter on the day of Pentecost. And he preaches to a large crowd. And these are the words that he preached. I'm going to ask Pastor Alex to read them.
Men of Israel, listen to this. Jesus of Nazareth was a man accredited by God to you by miracles, wonders, and signs, which God did among you through him, as you yourselves know. This man was handed over to you by God's set purpose and foreknowledge, and you, with the help of the wicked men, put him to death by nailing him to the cross. But God raised him from the dead, freeing him from the agony of death, because it was impossible for death to keep its hold on him. David said about him, "I saw the Lord always before me. Because he is at my right hand, I will not be shaken. Therefore my heart is glad and my tongue rejoices. My body also will live in hope. Because you will not abandon me to the grave, nor will you let your Holy One see decay. You have made known to me the paths of life. You will fill me with joy in your presence." Brothers, I can tell you confidently that the patriarch David died and was buried, and his tomb is here to this day. But he was a prophet, and knew that God had promised him on oath that he would place one of his descendants on his throne. Seeing what was ahead, he spoke of the resurrection of Christ, that he was not abandoned to the grave, nor did his body see decay. God has raised this Jesus to life, and we are all witnesses of the fact.
There's a third grade Sunday school teacher that was talking to her Sunday school class and said, "What do you think Jesus' first words were when he came out of the grave?" One little girl raised her hand with enthusiasm, and the teacher called upon her and said, "Well, what do you think Jesus said?" She said, "Ta-da!" Probably not. Jesus' resurrection from the dead was not a show, but rather it was foundational for our faith. You know, Jesus gave many teachings. Jesus performed signs and wonders and miracles. But it is the resurrection. It is the empty tomb that gives us hope in knowing that God will do what he promises he will do.